Okay, so last year when I was in Thailand in November into December of 2019, I took several cameras with me to shoot photos and video with. And in this video, I want to show two of the cameras that I used that I had the most fun with. And that was the DJI Osmo Action and the DJI Osmo Pocket. I got asked a lot of questions, even by people while I was in Thailand, but I got asked a lot of questions when I came back. It was right before Christmas time, and some of my friends and even actually people I didn't know were asking me, they seen these cameras and they wanted to know, like, how good is it? Is that the camera you were using when you were on the motorbike? And just all those kind of questions. So yeah, this here is the DJI Osmo Action, which is essentially like a GoPro. Now, some people know all about GoPros, especially younger people. A lot of like teenagers, college age people, they know all about GoPros. And this is essentially like a GoPro, but it's made by DJI and it's called the Osmo Action. This is the Osmo Pocket. I've had this one longer, and this thing is awesome. I've had this one for about a year. It's in this hard plastic case, and you can just carry it in your pocket. It's got a wrist strap. You can walk around. It's so small. It shoots 4K video. It'll shoot regular HD 1080 video, and it just pops out real simple. And as soon as you pop it out, you can turn it on right away. It runs through its setup, and it's a little gimbal camera. You know, you can move it around, and it takes nice, smooth video. It'll, recenter itself when it needs to. Now, it has a little tiny screen, and that's one of the things that intimidates a lot of people. We all like touch screens. Our phones are touch screen, but imagine having a screen that small. Well, it's really not as bad as you think, and I'll show you in just a minute. So it also, you can turn it around and it'll do selfie. And, if you want to use it as a vlogging camera, if you just want to talk into it, have fun with your friends, family, that kind of thing. I mean, we all do this kind of stuff with our phones now, but this is nice to have this because it's very nice and stable, way more stable than a phone would ever be. So it'll also take photos, and the best part is it will connect to your phone. So a lot of times I would have this, there's my phone right there, and you just pop this in this bracket. And if I can do this rather quickly for the video here, get this lined up, but it just pops right in there like that. And now it's actually connected directly to the phone. And this is the way I would use it a lot of the times. I would walk around shooting with it. I would say I used it equally in all different configurations. But this was nice. You could walk around, and all the controls that are in the camera, because there's only two buttons. There's just the power button and there's a record button. But everything except the power button is available in the phone. You plug it into the phone, you open your phone, the app comes on, and it's just like so simple. And all the settings are there. And if you want to shoot in auto and you're not like, real camera savvy, and you just put your camera in auto, I mean, it takes excellent video. Like I say, it'll shoot in 4K. It'll shoot in regular HD. So it'll also take photos. The photos, I would say cell phones take maybe a better photo than this, but if you just wanted to grab a quick snapshot of something, this will certainly do the trick. So another thing that it'll do besides that is it will clip into this little base here, and this base is basically sends a Wi-Fi signal to your phone. And you can thread it onto a tripod, or I used to use these things a lot, these little handheld, they're tripods, but they're also a hand grip. But it'll open up into a tripod, and you could set this thing down somewhere. And what is nice about this thing, that's nice about this camera that this camera can't do, is when you set this down somewhere, this will do a time lapse, but it will do a motion lapse. And a motion lapse, we've all seen them. It's a time lapse, but it's where the camera moves and pans and maybe tilts and everything as it slowly moves and does the time lapse. So with your phone, you can connect to this wirelessly, and you can set up and you can do a time lapse like lickety split Of course, it takes a while to do a time lapse. It can take, like, if you want 30 seconds of video, it's going to take 30 minutes. But you just set this thing down and you walk away. So another thing that I used to do with it in this type of a configuration that you can't really do with your cell phone or anything, and that is I could set it down and I could control it from afar, and people didn't really know it was there. Now, I wasn't trying to like infringe on people's privacy or anything like that, but sometimes when you're videoing and people see you shooting video, well, if it's kids, they'll act out for the camera. If it's adults, they kind of shy away from the camera, if they're, something like that. So what I would do is I would just set it up kind of an inconspicuous place. Sometimes it was only sitting right next to me, but people didn't know it was on and they didn't know it was a camera. And if they didn't know it was a camera, a lot of times they just didn't know it was on. And this way you could catch some really nice natural video of people. Also, it has the ability, when it's in this configuration, you have the ability to put a nice microphone on. I'm all about capturing nice sound. So a lot of times if I'm capturing video, I put music over top of it. So I'm not really worried about the sound. But if I'm talking into it, like I'm talking right now, I'm talking into a nice microphone, actually exactly like this one. So this cuts down the wind. If you're out and about, you have the ability to do that if you really want to do it. And let's see what else. Let's get rid of the microphone. So now let's go to, why would you have both? Well, there's certain places that this one way outweighs what this one can do. But then there's other places that this Osmo Action far outweighs what the Osmo Pocket can do. And this is more of, now, first off, I got to say the cameras are exactly the same. They both shoot the 1080 video. They'll shoot the 4K video. They both shoot stills. They both shoot slow motion video. If you want to do slow motion stuff, they do pretty adequate job at slow motion. But what the nice part about it is, this thing you can get it wet. This one's a little more rugged. This one will go underwater. I've taken it under, in the ocean. So you can take it underwater. It doesn't hurt it. And this one is more of the one that you would want to mount on, like I had it mounted on the motorbike. I can't show you the mount right now because I'm actually using it for mounting the microphone onto a stand. But I had this mounted on the motorbike, and I would go from motorbike to motorbike because I was renting them or borrowing them, and I would just swap it out and take it from one to another with no problem. And it's very easy to turn on and off. You can use the controls here. It'll also connect to your phone, same as the other one does. It'll connect wirelessly without connecting to a base or anything. And it also has AI, artificial intelligence. You can say, once you turn it on, you can say start recording, and it starts recording. Say stop recording, it'll stop. And it has two screens. It has a front screen, a back screen. So if you want to do selfie and you're facing it towards the front of you, you can say switch screen, and it just switches screen. And you can, and really nice for doing selfie because you can line yourself up, make sure you're talking into the camera correctly. And of course, this one also has a spot on the top of the cage where you can mount a microphone, well, somehow in there. And it's going to make a liar out of me, but it will mount in there, right? Oh, I got it the wrong way. There we go. And it has a special little adapter that I don't have handy here somewhere. Here's a special adapter that will plug in. And what's nice about this one will do time lapse as well, but it also shoots all the regular video. But if you need extra battery life while you got it plugged in, you can plug in through the microphone port. All these little things. I just wanted to show how I use these cameras, and like the stuff that I used to actually capture all of the video, because a lot of people think that, well, you just go and buy the camera and that's it. You can go and shoot, and you can. But a lot of the stuff I did, I needed extra things. I had lots of extra batteries. This one, you can change the batteries. This one, you cannot. This one, you have to charge it, and therefore you're probably going to want to carry a power bank with you. But it all depends on what you want to do with this camera or with your camera. Do you want something that's more steady all the time and you don't do a lot of action? Do you do a lot of action? Or if you do both, you're like me, you get both cameras. Then there's other things. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is I didn't purchase all this stuff just to go to Thailand. You know, I bought this about a year ago. I bought it a little over a year ago, I guess. And I bought this one about 8 months ago. I've had it for a while. This came from another rig that I already had. And like these little adapters, these are magnetic adapters, like quick adapters, so that you can very easily mount it on something. Just pull it off, go to mount on something else. I had these things. Wrenches are something you're going to need. A special little wrench to tighten. You're definitely going to want to have that. Like that's a, you know, but it doesn't cost that much. Then there are the filters. You see this dark lens on here. A lot of people think it's a lens, but it, you know, if you don't know, you think it's a lens, but it's actually a filter. Magnetically, it just pops on there and it pops off. And what these are for, I'm not going to get too technical into it, but I like to shoot a more cinematic feel to my video. So in order to do that, there is a combination of frame rate and shutter speed that we use. And sometimes the shutter speed is so slow that if you're in a bright situation, it lets a lot of light come into the camera. Excuse me. And that will overexpose. So essentially think of these as like a pair of sunglasses for your camera. And I have them for both of them. So that was something else that I had to like deal with. I have sets of these filters right here for each camera. And I would, you know, determine how bright the sun is and pick out which filter I needed for the frame rate that I was using. And then this particular one here, this guy, he is a circular polarizer. You can spin him. And if you've ever had polarized sunglasses are perfect for like if you're on the frozen ice on a frozen lake or driving in the snow, snowmobiling. But they're also great if you're out on the water and you got that sun glare. Any place where you have bright sun glare, a polarizer is a little bit different than a regular filter where it just really cuts that glare away. And it also enhances the blues in the sky and the greens in the grass. So that's why I have those. Also have a nice impact resistant and waterproof case for my SD cards. You know, you're going and you're shooting all this video, and you definitely want to make sure you're protected after you've shot it, that you don't, you know, have something happen to it. So this will hold the regular SD cards like my other cameras hold, but it'll also hold the micros, and the micros are what both of these guys use. And then another thing that was kind of a must-have item, but it was only like $3, and that's this thing right here. So this thing is, you know, you can put an SD card in here, you can put a micro SD in here, and this will plug into the PC on this side, and this will plug into your phone on this side. So if you want to view your video that you just shot like right away, well, you have this little item right here, and that's perfect. So you have your impact resistant case to keep your stuff in. You have this little guy, and then there's like a few other items. I had these carbon fiber tubes. These things look heavy, but they're, you know, they're carbon fiber, so they're super light. And I had two of them. I have one end has a ball head, and one end, you know, they connect together this way. And then I would just put something like this on the bottom. And these things were great because once you connect them together, you had a monopod that you could set your cameras on, and they're noisy. They're noisy as hell. But you could set your camera on that if you didn't want your camera sitting down on the ground. A lot of times in Thailand, it's very dusty, or when I was down on the islands, it was very sandy, of course. So everywhere you go, you have potential. But these things are great. These cameras, like, I really was rough and tumble with them, and I didn't have any problems with the dirt. Another grip tripod that's a plastic one that I acquired along the way. Also would carry with me my Allen wrenches and all my little nuts and bolts that I need in case I lose something. And essential thing for tools was, you know, vice grips, pair of pliers. And then also somewhere around here, we have this guy, an all-purpose screwdriver and a bottle opener. You know, you got to have that. So, and bright color, I made this myself so I could find it, not lose it. And let's see, what else do we have? I guess the last thing I had that kind of rounded out the whole setup that was kind of an important piece. And this, again, I wouldn't run out and buy this just to go on a trip, but this thing was certainly great to have on a trip. And it's a power bank, and it is a wireless hard drive. This is a 1 terabyte. And what I would do is when I came back, like say I went out in the morning and, you know, before breakfast, and I shot a beautiful sunset, you know, time lapse with the sunset, and maybe I shot some handheld stuff. Maybe I even shot some photos with the DSLR. And then I go to breakfast. I take this thing with me. I just set it on the breakfast table, turn it on, put my SD cards in there while I'm eating breakfast. All my files go into folders by date and time, and it separates the cameras. So I know which folder each camera was, everything like that. It does it all. It's also a power bank. It has its own battery to power itself. And if you need extra power for one of the cameras, you know, it's running low. Like I said, this one you have to charge. This one, I have extra batteries for it. So, and if you just needed to charge your phone. So this thing was great because everything goes in there. And then say I went out after breakfast and I went out for the whole day and I was shooting. When I came back, I put all the files in here, plug it into the laptop. Everything is there. And even the best part is when I came back from Thailand, come back to the USA, I just plug this into my PC and all of my files are there. And if there's anything that's super important that I want to keep backed up, I just leave it on an SD card and I don't clear that particular card out. So that's how I use these cameras and the stuff that I use with them. I know it seems like a lot of paraphernalia. Again, didn't buy it all at one time. I just kind of acquired it over time. But these things certainly are a lot of fun. You know, this is something that I certainly didn't have when I was a kid, and I wish we did. And I certainly didn't have these even when I started into photography and video, but now we have them, and they're amazing. Pretty tough cameras. They run about $350 for each one. Sometimes you can find them cheaper than that. I have seen them as low as $299. And really, when you stop and think about it, to get a video camera that you can literally take underneath the water with you for $300, that's not that bad of a deal. And they're so tough. I've dropped this one on the ground. I've dropped this one on the ground numerous times, and I haven't done anything to it. Amazingly, I'm amazed that I haven't. This one, I've never really dropped it on the ground, but I've banged it around a lot, and I've banged it around a lot in its case, and it just holds up very good. So they're the cameras that I used. Now that I've made this video, anybody asks me, I'm just going to direct them to this video. So thank you for watching the video and have a great day.